first speaker of session 3. With utmost respect, we welcome this person. He's the National Secretary and Spokesperson of Bharatiya Janata Party. A few words about Anil Antony before we start.
As we all know, he is one of the very dynamic young leader and inspiration, the present National Secretary and National Spokesperson of Bharatiya Janata Party. With utmost pleasure, we welcome Anil Antony to address the gathering.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause, please.
Respected guests on the dais, Sri N.R. Madhuji, Monica Aroraji, respected Sri Nandakumarji, all the distinguished guests who are here, my friends and brothers and sisters. I'm very delighted to be here, and I first of all thank the organizers for inviting me for this gathering. During these times when certain elements are trying to create a very poisonous debate in this country, South versus North, East versus West, it's very apt that a magazine that has long been called the National Magazine of Kerala is holding an event bridging South, attempting to unite the whole country, create a narration of uniting the whole country and take us all together. India, for time immemorial, ever since the time of the Puranas, even before, this was always known as the land above the oceans, below the snowy mountains, that is Himalayas. It was always known as one single entity, which was not just a geographical area, but also a very prominent geopolitical entity, a very prominent cultural hub, a spiritual hub that has lasted forever, from the time civilizations were written. And this entity, as we all know, for many millennia, not just centuries, for many millennia, was one of the world leaders in economy. As late as 1750, this was a country that had almost 25% of the global GDP. This was one of the leaders in agriculture production, where again, as late as 1750s, the agriculture production in India was higher than the entire Europe combined. For centuries, it was one of the global leaders of trade. For centuries, we had some of the best known, globally renowned universities in the world, from Nalanda to Takshashila. We had the first surgery here. It was always the spiritual hub of the world. Scholars from across the world used to come to India to learn and study. Travelogues from Marco Polo to Fabian. Everybody came here. And then Megasthenes. And scholars used to come here to study. For a long time, we were the leaders in fields including many diverse fields, from medicine to healthcare to tool making to ship making to metallurgy. There are still pillars right next to the Qutub Minar, which was made during the Ashokan times, which is made of cast iron, and even modern day scientists and metallurgists don't know how it is still rust free. So this was what we always were, and it still is. We were also the richest country in the world for a long time, and that attracted a lot of uninvited guests also. We had a lot of invaders. Then the colonial period started. When the colonial period started in 1750s. Again, in the early mid 1700s, India contributed around 22% of the world income. And by the time the British left us in 1947, we were contributing 3%. So this 200 years was a unfortunate aberration. But then again, post-independence, we started a rise. It has been a steady rise. And in the last 9 years, things have accelerated. In 2014, we were a 2 trillion economy. Now we are almost becoming a 4 trillion economy. Last year, we overtook our old colonial overlords, the Great Britain, and we have become the 5th largest economy. We are projected to be the 3rd largest economy, overtaking Japan and Germany in the next 3 or 4 years. We are having a steady rise. And this is the age of technology, and our digital transformation has a lot of role to play in our steady rise also. Right now itself, we have become the 3rd largest digital economy. We have become the 3rd largest startup ecosystem. Our digital public infrastructure is now becoming globally renowned, where it is not just every single Indian who is using it, but 30 other countries have become using it. The UPI has become the biggest payment platform in the world. And alongside that, we are having a lot of we are reaching a lot of unprecedented heights across sectors. For instance, recently we became the first country to land on the south pole of the moon. Recently we became one of the 5 countries to have our own indigenous aircraft carrier. Couple of years back, 2-3 years back, we had a very disruptive global scenario where we had an unprecedented pandemic that the entire world faced. And during that pandemic, we became one of the 5 countries which had our own indigenous vaccine. Alongside creating our own indigenous vaccine that vaccinated our 1 billion population, we also, during that very difficult phase for the world, gave vaccines to another 100 countries and gave pharmaceutical products to another 150 countries. So in the last few years, whenever the world had a problem, India has become a stability and security provider. Right now, when you look at the world, when you look at the most turbulent and important theaters in the world, from West Asia to Indo-Pacific, again, India is becoming a very important stability as well as a safety provider. And we are seeing a steady rise of India as a very prominent pole in an emerging multipolar world. So all this is happening. And when this is happening, the people of this country, they are showing more and more trust and confidence in the trajectory India is having. And that is reflected in the people's mandate that keeps happening every often. State elections, national elections, where the people of this country are showing tremendous confidence and trust in the trajectory India is having and in the leadership of our Prime Minister and the party he is heading. And then we have an opposition, which already distinguished speakers before mentioned about them multiple times. They are running out of ideas, they are running out of fresh ideas. For a long time, they were talking about democracy. They were saying India is becoming undemocratic, but the largest country in the world, the most populous country in the world, which has the largest history of democracy in the world, outrightly rejected it. Because with time, just like me, just like almost every single one of you, the people of this country realize that democracy in India is becoming more and more deep-rooted and inclusive. And a lot of people who were left in the subalterns, who were in the fringes, who were not a part of the old Indian elite, are now becoming a part of the mainstream political narrations, and they are getting political representation. So, the narration of the opposition that there is no democracy was outrightly rejected. Then there was a lot of sudden concerns that were raised on secularism, where again certain members of the opposition were suddenly showing a lot of concerns on secularism. But then again, the electorate of the people, electorate of the country, our people, they outrightly rejected it. Why? Because they were giving a very clear message that secularism doesn't mean that it is the pandering to the sentiments of a few minority, where the majority population has to compromise and they need to yield their own being and existence, be submissive to a few minority in the name of secularist sentiments. So that was also rejected. Now recently there was a 5-state election where once again the people of this country showed tremendous confidence in India's trajectory and in the Prime Ministers and the ruling parties' policies as well as stances. And now this opposition that has completely run out of ideas have come up with their next narration. And that is, we in the South are different. There is a difference between South and North. We are discriminated. We are getting stepmotherly treatment. But once again, I am very sure that the people of India, just like the previous times when certain poisonous, divisive, sectarian narrations were created, the people of India will once again say that we don't have any South or North or West or East, we only have one Bharat. And the time for that is near. I congratulate the organizers of this event, because at this very apt time when these kind of poisonous narrations, these kind of negative, sectarian, divisive narrations are being created to divide the people, the organizers of this event, Kerala's national magazine Kesari, has come up with this event where once again we are telling the people who are trying to create divisiveness which are non-existent, that there is no South and East and West and North, there is only one Bharat. And that Bharat, which existed from time immemorial for millennia, will keep moving forward. And this Bharat will reclaim our position as the leading nation, a guide, a Vishwaguru of the world. With that, I conclude. And I thank the organizers again for inviting me for this gathering. Jai Hind, Vande Bharat.